Hi, I'm Burt Wilson. I live in Sacramento, California, and I was involved in the first campaign, which was against the Peripheral Canal back in 1982. Yeah, I'm an old guy. And we were in Los Angeles at that time, and it was a lot of fun, and I was introduced into the whole water wars thing about California. And it stayed with me when we finished, and I've been involved with water agencies and the Delta and things like that ever since. Now, we won that campaign in 1982 by a 2/3 vote in California, and that was really something. It was the biggest defeat ever for Governor Jerry Brown, and rightly so, because the canal would have ruined the Delta. I've spent most of my life in the advertising business as a creative director and agency owner. And I think it's the greatest business in the world because you learn to distill images and a lot of writing. You look through thousands of pages of stuff to find the nucleus of what you're going to talk about or what you're going to advertise. And this is a great lead into searching documents from the water agencies to find out where the Achilles heel of what they're trying to push past the public lies. And once you do that, you're in business. And once you find that how they're trying to misrepresent things to the public, that spurs you on to try to want to warn the public about what's really happening. And I thank my life in the advertising business for the ability to search the records and do the research necessary and find the things that don't ring true. Currently, the water agencies are trying to push through two 30-mile-long, 40-foot wide tunnels underneath the Delta to take Northern California water south. Now, it didn't start out this way. After the defeat of the Peripheral Canal in 1982, building a canal of any kind in the Delta became what is known as the third rail of California politics. Touch it and you're dead. And they found this out because in the 2009 water bill, Governor Schwarzenegger and the legislature included a canal-type conveyance in that legislation. When it passed, it was going to be put on the ballot in 2010, but they did a little poll on it in California and found out that it would go down to defeat. So they pulled it out of the water bill and said that they would do it later. Of course, they found out that they couldn't do a peripheral canal anymore, and they had to come up with some new kind of conveyance. So what they came up with was the twin tunnels. Why? Because obviously somebody in a water agency said, well, they're building tunnels in China, so we can do it here. Very early on, it became clear to me that the water that they wanted to send south was going to be used for fracking purposes. And that's why, to frack oil wells, and that's why they wanted more water sent south. Because currently in Greeley, Colorado, the water agencies are selling water to farmers for $30 an acre foot. They're selling it to the oil companies for $3,300 an acre foot. So you can see that this becomes a profitable business for the water agencies who are getting all this new water from Northern California. They can make billions. They can pay off the twin tunnels as soon as possible. So this fracking thing is real. The other day I went to the Independent Science Board, which was hearing from the BDCP consultants about their effects analysis program. And I told the Independent Science Board that the reason they want to build a new forebay, a freshwater forebay near the regular forebay in Clifton Court, was because that would be clear fresh water. It would have no fish in it. So that rang a bell right away. What good would be a separate forebay with clean fresh water with no fish in it? It's perfect for fracking. And the science people picked up on this. In fact, the next day, they told the BDCP consultants that we don't think another freshwater forebay is necessary in Clifton Court forebay. You should have it all mixed into one because it's an extra expense. You really don't need that. About a year ago in a BDCP meeting, I asked Jerry Merrill in public comment time what they were going to do about overpollution in the Delta. He said, well, it's going to be zeroed out with offsets. Now, not many people know what an offset is. I happen to know what it is because I've been this in a long time. And I said, Jerry, that's going to come back to bite you one of these days. Well, that day is here. Going through the EIR, EIS 35,000 page program which the BDCP gave us to check into, I went right away to chapter 22, which was air quality. And it goes through there and it tells you how the diesel engines and the electricity and everything else in there is going to create all this contaminant and toxic air, greenhouse gases and everything like that. And then it says at the bottom how they're going to manage it. They're going to manage it through offsets. Well, this right away strikes another chord in my mind. Most people don't know what offsets are, but I know what they mean by that. And what they plan to do is go to another air quality management district, particularly San Francisco, which has pure air, and buy carbon credits, what are known as carbon credits. It's like they can zero it out, but the zeroing out is on paper. The pollution does not move to San Francisco. It stays there in the workplace. So all the workmen who are going to go down to work on the peripheral tunnels when they start building them, they're going to walk into an environmental mess, but they're going to be told, oh, don't worry, it's been zeroed out. But they're not telling them it's been zeroed out only on paper, that the pollution still remains in the Delta, and it'll cause many of them to get long-term illnesses. The Achilles heel for the whole BDC project is, as I've just mentioned, the overpollution of the workplace in the Delta. There is nothing they can do about it. As I explained, buying carbon credits from a cleaner air quality management district like San Francisco does not erase the pollution except on paper. So what this means is that the BDC will actually not be able to even dig one hole in the Delta without violating the air quality management district pollution standards. So they're stopped, they're stymied. Because they know it's a fraud, an absolute fraud. There's no other word for it, to tell workmen to go into a place to work where it's been offset by buying pollution credits that zeroed out on paper but not in the Delta. That's the Achilles heel. The effects analysis and the EIR, the EIS of the BDCP have been trashed twice. This is their third time, and it's not going to be a charm for the BDCP. They're paying millions of dollars to consultants to try to make the language appear where something shouldn't be there, that it's not there when it actually is. This is what consultants do. This is why they're paid to do it. They're paid not to be honest, but they're paid to be political, to cover up the deficiencies and to expand the benefits. But the Independent Science Board has caught them in this. The Independent Science Board won't use words like I use. They say, well, the benefits have been subtly overstated. Well, that's great. There you go right now. I have great confidence in the Independent Science Board in following through with its independence, and if they do, they cannot help but trash this third try by the BDCP to get their EIR-EIS passed and accepted. It was interesting that the state still wants to get a conveyance of some kind, this being twin tunnels in the Delta. And they went to school on why they lost out last time, because last time they didn't have anything for the environmentalists. So this time they put in habitat restoration in order to attract the environmentalists. But the words they used didn't attract the environmentalists because it's all up in the air. The BDC does not know what to do for habitat restoration, and the Delta Science Board now is telling them that in most cases they're doing it wrong. So we don't even know if that's going to pass. They use all of these terms, propaganda is what I call it, to let people know that this is going to be good for them, only the beneficiaries pay. Of course, that's you and me. And it's the thing that the state of California needs, and the thing they most try to do is to scare you, that if you don't buy into something like this, you're going to turn your tap and the water is not going to come out. That's not true. They will do anything to get this passed, but it's up to you to try to look through the propaganda and understand that this will ruin the Delta. It's not a good thing and never has been. To me, there's no doubt about it that the water agencies and the DWR and the other agencies involved in trying to put twin tunnels in the Delta are not operating under a moral imperative. They're operating under a political imperative. And the difference is they're not being honest. They're being as political as possible to make things appear other than what they really are. This is what public agencies tend to do when it comes from the top down, the governor or somebody else wants this done. So we are not being told the truth about the twin tunnels. As a matter of fact, the water agencies have the biggest propaganda machine in California under the direction of the Water Education Fund. They are out to tell you that if you don't support them 100%, you might not find any water coming out of your taps. This is morally wrong. They know they're wrong, and it's up to us to cut through this and tell you the truth about it. The huge propaganda machine that is run by the Water Education Foundation takes the media on trips into the Delta. They wine and dine them. They have special days for them. All this to get their side of the tunnel issue into the media. So you can't always believe what the media is saying, even though it may sound very good and very logical. It is nevertheless the view of the water agencies, and excluded from that is the opposite view of what's really going to happen. The media should understand this, and they should give opportunities for people like myself and others to explain the dark side of the BDCP so people can get a really balanced view.